Welcome to the Albuquerque Journal's Tech Outlook podcast. CNM is truly one college with infinite possibilities in tech and data sciences. CNM offers programs where everyone can learn about software, apps, or how to build websites. You can also choose from AI programs and machine learning, the Internet of Things, and so much more. CNM, one college, infinite possibilities, and the proud sponsor of the Tech Outlook podcasts.
Hi, I'm Ryan Botel, and welcome back to the Journal's Tech Outlook podcast. With me today is Trishelle Kirk and Dewey. They're the co-owners of Soilutions here in Albuquerque. To start off with, can you just tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you came to co-own Soilutions and a little bit about the company?
Sure, yeah. This is Dawn. I'm Dawn.
Yeah.
We came to own Soilutions in 2021. We acquired it when the founders, Jim and Karen Brooks, retired, and they actually founded Soilutions all the way back in 1996. So it's been around New Mexico for more than 25 years. And we had entrepreneurial aspirations and also a yearning to dedicate my profession towards something that made a difference and that I was really passionate about. So the opportunity kind of just fell in my lap as I started thinking about how I would go about it. And it was a great opportunity. We acquired the business and we've had a lot of fun. And now we're running our own business that helps our planet and community every day. It's incredibly gratifying.
Yeah, and talk to us about that. Trishelle, what is Soilutions for those of us who aren't familiar with the company?
Soilutions is the largest private composter in New Mexico. So we take in food waste, landscaping waste, and other kinds of things from the earth, and we use it, we recycle it into compost, soils, and mulches that are full of great nutrients that we redistribute into New Mexico.
And there's sort of a problem that you're trying to solve, which is food waste, organic material ending up in the landfill. Why is that an issue that people should care about?
Well, I think the amount of waste going into all of the landfills is an issue, and there's lots of waste going into the landfill, but food waste in particular is an issue because it decomposes really quickly and it emits methane, which is 20 times worse than carbon for the atmosphere in the first 20 years. So food waste, the EPA estimates, is responsible for 58% of methane emissions. And it's really just a waste when Mother Nature has designed this fantastic process to deal with food waste and to make it into something usable to continue growing food. And so there's this natural cycle that, Mother Nature spent billions of years developing that we're really just helping to put into action instead of having food waste just go rot and emit this terrible methane gas. We take it and transform it into all natural gardening products, which is really what nature intended for food waste to do. Mm-hmm. She wanted that to happen with food waste.
Yeah. And what is composting? Can you just explain kind of the science a little bit behind what's going on there that leads to compost?
Yeah. Composting is the aerobic decomposition of organic waste. And so to create compost in a commercial composting environment, it's about combining ideal ratios of carbon waste, which is, a lot of people call it browns. That's going to be dried organic waste like branches, sticks, leaves, anything that's kind of dried out, with nitrogen waste or greens, and that's the food waste or things that are natural. And so we use a calculator that was developed here by Steve Glass, who's also my dad. Actually, in the 90s, he worked for the water utility and developed the composting operation there. But it's adapted from Cornell University. And so we run labs on all of our inputs to determine their bulk density and their carbon and nitrogen ratio. And we plug that in to come up with our ideal recipe. And it's very akin to baking a cake. You put in the right ingredients, you mix it up, you add water, and then we let it cook for a period of time. For us, that's several months where we're turning it. And it's really the microbial life inside that's doing the work. The bacteria and fungi actually eats and decomposes all the material and turns it into this rich, beautiful compost.
Okay, that's cool. And so your dad was involved in creating a calculator that is kind of still used by your company today to kind of get the right blend of what's being aerated.
Yeah, actually, my dad started so Albuquerque Water Utility Authority has a composting operation where they actually compost something called biosolids, which is human manure, human waste that we all process through our wastewater treatment system. And so in the 90s, it was pretty innovative, and many municipalities do it today, and Albuquerque still does it as well. They compost the human waste, and then they actually sell it and use it for traffic medians, and there's a lot of mine restoration happening in the northern part of the state where they use that compost. And so it was one of the first commercial or municipal composters in the country and in Albuquerque, in fact.
Okay, cool. When Dawn was talking about kind of the business a little bit, she was using inputs, and maybe people don't know kind of the business model of Soilutions and what she means by inputs. Can you just kind of explain how you get the product that you use to create what you end up selling?
Yeah, we have what we call a landfill diversion program where we work with other local businesses in the Albuquerque area that have waste that can be what we call recycled. And so that's, again, organic materials such as food waste and landscaping waste. We work with those companies to take in those products. We work with people like Bueno Foods. We take in chilies during chili roasting season. We work with Pinon Coffee and take in coffee chaff. We work with a number of local grocers as well to take in their food waste, food that can't be sold to the public, but can still be part of the composting process. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about inputs, that's what we're looking at is, food, grass clippings, branches, all of those kinds of things. They come through our organic recycling program. And then we use those inputs, that organic waste, to create the compost, which then also creates soils and mulches.
So that organic waste gets from those producers, grocers, and things like that. It ends up at Soilutions property, which we haven't said, it's in the South Valley, right? You have basically what looks like a landfill. And then you plug it into the calculator and kind of start the months-long process. Is that?
Yeah, that's right. So we have, we do testing about every quarter to figure out what the chemical balance is on our inputs, because obviously they change. We're working with different organizations, we're working with different seasons, and so we'll see slightly different chemical compounds throughout the year. So we'll test it, and then we build compost. So we have what we call an aerated windrow system, which are long, sort of narrow piles of compost that we turn on a regular basis, and then we watch the temperatures. So composting is a hot chemical process, so we make sure that the temperature profile means that all of the bad microbials are going away, all the good ones are staying, and then it becomes a final product for us.
Okay, so you're not just dumping it out there and then we'll come back in a few months and have a finished, completed product. Okay.
No, we're looking at it. We do a lot of testing. We're very scientific about it. So we're measuring temperatures at least 3 times a week. We're measuring moisture content. We're looking at the compost piles every day and turning them very regularly, at least once a week, often more.
Okay. And eventually you'll know that this compost, and is compost the noun basically? Like, is that what you sell as compost, or is it like dirt that's been composted? Or
we sell compost, and then we also sell soil, which is compost and what you might refer to as dirt, sandy loam, that kind of stuff, and then mulches, which are ground green waste, sometimes also combined with compost.
Okay. And that's the final product that people want to buy, and you have lots of different customers, right?
We do. Yeah, we work with, we sell directly to the public. And so that was one of the first things we did after we acquired the business is we built an online store where residential gardeners looking to, maybe start a raised bed or even just top dress their lawn, apply compost to help their flowers. They can go onto our website and order directly there for driveway delivery. And so that's worked out really well for us. And then we also supply to farms and municipalities and landscapers. So, for instance, Los Poblanos farms, we've provided them with compost and soils for many years. The ABQ Botanic Gardens and Biopark uses all of Soilutions products. And so we've got a pretty varied customer base and really strong demand. That's been our biggest challenge in the past couple of years, is keeping up with demand and finding ways to scale and make more compost to be able to make sure that we're not selling out all the time. Great problem to have. And what's so great about our business is the more we scale, the more we're helping the planet and the more we're getting waste out of the landfill. So it's a really terrific thing.
Okay. So that's kind of an issue that you're dealing with in a company, is you run out of product to sell.
Yeah, it's in any business, it's the supply demand and balancing those two. And so we've driven a lot of demand. We're very grateful that our community has responded. And I think there's a real appetite right now for natural organic gardening products. And people are really reading. There's more research coming out about all these chemical gardening products and these miracle chemicals people have been dumping on their gardens for decades are actually not the best way to have a sustainable, successful garden over time. It's working as closely with nature and trying to mimic, like I said, that process that's been developed for millions of years.
So if you're a gardener in Albuquerque and you just have the regular soil on the earth, what are some challenges that you would have? Would you struggle maybe to get off without chemicals and fertilizers and things like that?
If you were trying to simply grow in our native dirt in New Mexico, you would have significant troubles because, we live in a desert environment, but it's been exacerbated by the fact that since the probably early 90s, somehow the trend became here to put rock everywhere. So many of the majority of the yards or even commercial spaces in Albuquerque have rock that have further contributed to desertifying our environment here. And so in order to grow, there's also kind of a varied types of native soil in New Mexico, ranging from clay soil to sandy soil, depending on what type of area of town you live in. But the good news is either of those can be improved by compost, because what happens when you put down compost, what's inside it is billions. It's this incredibly diverse, rich ecosystem, billions of bacteria, fungi, predators and prey. There's nematodes, there's flagellates, there's testate amoeba, and it's an entire world in itself. And what they do when you add compost to your native soil and plants and water and mulch, they build an ecosystem in your garden or in your lawn. And it's those tiny little microorganisms that are actually doing the work of creating pathways for the water to go through and building structure so your plant's roots can thrive. And so it's a very fascinating and magical process that really doesn't work well with chemicals, because chemicals often kill those beneficial organisms that you need to have a sustainable, successful garden.
And it kind of also, what you're saying at the start there, it sort of highlights how you're a solutions-based company a little bit, because if it's hard in particular to grow food in New Mexico, kind of all the more reason not to put it in the landfill and further harm the earth a little bit. It's kind of almost like a unique, why throw away our food if it's very hard to grow it here, right?
Exactly. I think it applies to everywhere in the United States. People should be growing more food because it's about, self-sustenance, but it's also therapeutic. And, I think there's a primal urge to get in the soil. If you go out and smell a handful of Soilutions soil, I always say it transports you to a primal place. Like it just, it smells fantastic. It's earthy. It's rich. And I think there's a part of all of us who yearn to connect with nature and the earth because we're all connected.
But getting there takes months.
Yeah, and even it can take years to build a really healthy soil ecosystem. But if you are using compost or growing in raised beds and amending your soil and following the right steps with compost and mulch, it's pretty simple. You can find success in one season. And then if you continue to just apply mulch and compost, it's just going to get better year after year. Versus if you're using chemicals or Miracle Grow or something like that, what happens is it's almost like you're feeding your plants candy bars and, feeding your children candy bars. Imagine that. And then it's going to run out and they're going to get really cranky and they're not going to thrive and be as healthy as they would if you're feeding them healthy organic fruits and vegetables.
Earlier, we were talking about just some of the other ways that Soilutions incorporates different technologies into your business, but we were talking about drones a little bit, which help with the measurements. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we are a bulk business, which means that we're selling typically in cubic measurements, like cubic yards. So, for example, 1 cubic yard fills about the back of compost is about the back of a pickup truck. And so historically, the way that bulk businesses have managed their inventory is what we would call educated guesswork. So an individual's kind of walking around the pile and saying, I think this is 20 cubic yards or 30 cubic yards. And that is extremely challenging when you're trying to be efficient from a production standpoint and really understand, what's going on with our product. What do we have on the ground? What stage is our compost in? Because it does take months to produce it, and we try and produce it as accurately and scientifically as possible. And so we implemented drone technology late last year. And what we do is we have a software program that essentially allows us to map all of the piles and get a very accurate cubic measurement on what we have on the ground. And so that allows us to be, really thoughtful about what we're producing in terms of soils and mulches to meet demand, to really reduce waste and increase efficiency, which for our business is incredibly important.
Well, it's kind of the name of the business, right?
Exactly.
So you've got these drones who are helping you get the exact measurements of the product, and then you've got other tools that help you make sure that the chemistry within inside that soil is where it needs to be to meet up to your standards.
Exactly. Yes.
What about, Dawn, just this problem that America has an aging farmers? Farmers are getting older. You talked about just feeling the benefits of growing your own food and sort of that. What do you think people should know about growing their own food versus going to the grocery store every day?
I think as we all become more cognizant of the waste that exists in our society and in our global culture, really, if you really sit back and think about the amount of energy used to get a head of lettuce to you in the grocery store that was grown 3 or 4 states away, it becomes pretty easy to decide that it makes more sense to grow it in your backyard because, first of all, as soon as a piece of vegetable is harvested, it starts losing its nutrient value. And so the sooner you can eat it from the time you harvest it, the higher the nutrient content. And so if something's picked in, let's say California, where a lot of lettuce is grown, and it takes 4 or 5 days of transport and lots of fuel and semi-trucks on the road before it gets there, it's not very sustainable or good for our environment, and it's not as healthy as it would be. And so when you're growing food in your own garden, using organic practices, one, you just get the therapeutic benefits of gardening, which has been shown to significantly reduce cortisol levels, improve depression, anxiety, all of those things. It's a very healthy thing to do. And then when you're able to harvest the vegetable and eat it right then and there, it is the healthiest food you can eat on the planet. And so I think gardening and growing your own food, it's just a no-brainer for all the benefits that it brings. Okay.
So Trishelle and Dawn, and Dawn, your husband Justin is also a co-owner in the business. You talked about that problem of you running out of product. What are you doing? What are your plans to kind of scale up?
So we are looking to partner with more companies that want to be part of our landfill diversion program. So that's step one for us is we need more businesses thinking about, I have this waste, I'm sending it to the landfill. Could I use it for something better? And understanding that Soilutions is here and available and has a lot of capacity to take that organic waste. So as we said earlier, we recently partnered with some large local grocery stores, and currently we are diverting over 200,000 pounds of food waste every single week. And we have an appetite to do more. Plus, we need additional green waste to combine in our ideal carbon and nitrogen ratios to make good compost. And so, we're looking for what kind of organizations have tree branches and leaves and, materials from chopping down trees or thinning out trees, and can we divert them to Soilutions to make compost? So that's really step one for us is just, really continuing to partner with organizations that want to be part of creating something good for our community out of their waste.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about Soilutions. Is there anything else that people should know about your company and the role you're trying to play here in Albuquerque and New Mexico?
I would just encourage our community to consider gardening and consider mulch instead of rock to build a healthier landscape and healthier yard and garden, and check us out on our website. And that's all.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.